My name is Justin Hahnemann. I lead our worldwide retail and consumer goods team at Amazon Web Services. So it's great to have you here. Let me welcome up to the stage Vijay and Sriram. Please join me in welcoming them to the stage. Okay, so why don't we start with introduce yourselves and share a little bit of your story before joining Neiman Marcus.
Sure, yeah. I'm Vijay Karthik. I'm the Senior Vice President and CTO for Neiman Marcus Group. I've been with Neiman Marcus for about 5.5 years. My IT career started in the 90s. I was a C++ kind of a developer. Just been a software engineer, then grew up the ranks in different companies, whether it is CPG, retail, e-commerce, and then I joined Neiman Marcus.
Awesome. Welcome.
Sriram, so I've been with Neiman Marcus for about 5 years, and I had actually worked with Vijay in the past, and then essentially when Neiman Marcus was just about to, kind of transform and begin their cloud journey, that seemed like an awesome, gig to actually go and be part of. And I'm a tech geek at heart too. Yeah, once a developer, you're always a developer, right? So essentially, that's how my journey started with Neiman Marcus, and yeah.
Awesome, welcome. Okay, so we're about to jump into your cloud journey, which is what we're going to talk about today. A couple of interesting stats. How many of you know the Neiman Marcus brand? Every hand in the building goes up. 10,000 associates, 37 stores, incredible brands, Neiman Marcus, Bergdorf Goodman, Last Call, Horchow. Interesting, when I did the setup for today, the first luxury retailer that introduced a loyalty program. And this was back in 1984. Who knew that? No hands. It's kind of cool fact. One hand in the back did go up. And also the first luxury retailer to establish an e-commerce site.
Yep.
Pretty cool. We're going to talk a little bit about that today in terms of the platform. So our focus today is on the cloud journey and your transformation. And before we jump into kind of the timeline and the details here, how about share, what was the state of things at Neiman Marcus when you got there?
Sure, yeah. So when I was hired in 2017, I was hired for this very purpose. When I joined Neiman Marcus, not many folks knew about cloud. Few folks, I see one of our leaders, he knew about cloud, but apart from it, no one knew about cloud. Very heavy on a waterfall kind of a process, Neiman Marcus. So things would, you would have different teams build requirements. We had a team called PPMO team that would build the requirements. They would literally throw it over the wall. Literally, we had 2 buildings. They would just give it over the wall to another building. Right? Sure. And then we would say, thank you, bye. And then 6 months later, you get something different what you didn't want, right? And then we started evolving. So we said, hey, this is not the way it works with a new way of thinking. So we decided to go through a cloud journey and transform the entire company, right? So I'll stop there, Neiman.
Yeah, I mean, I think when I joined, again, like I said, it was just starting the cloud journey at that point in time. And then we had as we were growing, and there was a need for us to essentially, look at opportunities that will help us accelerate innovation and be able to, transform digitally and modernize to actually keep pace with the way in which we wanted to grow, right? So essentially, it was just at the nascent beginnings of it, and we had our own path to kind of reach to the stage where we are today. So yeah, it was a start that we had to actually try and prove out a lot of things to actually get started, right? So
love it.
It was great.
You guys have laid out here a 6-year journey. This doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
So how about walk us through kind of your thinking and some of the key decisions that you had to go through as you work through the process.
So if you look at 2016, it says first workload on AWS. It was a super small footprint. A couple of servers that we had for a mobile application, right? And in 17, when we decided to go full steam on cloud, we didn't pick AWS right away, right? I come from a background AWS. We said, hey, let's just be open-minded. You can do infra as a service, platform as a service, right? So we looked at Pivotal Code Foundry, GCP, Azure, AWS, and then we ended up with AWS because I would say probably Nobody talked about it, but everybody knew that we'll pick AWS. And then we ended up at AWS, and then we started the journey of just launching things. And again, it's not like you just can't lift and shift to the cloud. You can never do that. Never lift and shift to the cloud, right? Unless you have a burning data center, right? It was a very methodical journey that we did in terms of how to move to the cloud, the right architecture to the cloud. What I call it as you lift, re-architect, re-platform, and re-host. It's very, very important you do that, right? And you don't do it for the whole, like everything. You just take small chunks and do it. So what you see over here is a journey.
Good.
I always say it's a journey. It's not done yet. We're still a long way to go. We have about 80%, 90% of our workload on the cloud. We're still there. But again, once you go through the journey, don't think it's done. You have to constantly keep re-innovating, keep doing that over and over again, right? I'll let Sriram continue.
Yeah, I mean, again, like I said, like we started with a lift and shift approach, just to prove out value. But like mentioned, we kind of graduated to that's not the right way to actually go about doing things in cloud, especially when you're actually building large scale applications that are customer facing, that needs to be kind of agile, and the pace of innovation has to be rapid.
Sure.
So you need to actually graduate and take advantage the cloud offers, right? Whether it's AWS or whatever cloud you're actually going to. I mean, it is very important that you pick the right tool for the right set of workload, and that's one of the things that we had to actually graduate through our levels, and be it cloud native or go to serverless first approach or whatnot, and essentially that's been the journey. And again, from a how do you actually prove out value, and that is very, very important as you actually start, because you want to bring the organization across with you, and the way to do that is to actually take small chunks, prove out value, and keep growing, from that standpoint, right?
There's a number of retailers here that are most likely somewhere on the spectrum of cloud journey, right? So we went right to the tech.
Yeah.
But when you were thinking about business value or like the actual your internal customers, how did you gauge like the benefit or the value of like moving in the first place? Like what were the drivers behind it?
I mean, first and foremost is that it's not a one team effort to go to the cloud. It's enterprise effort to go to the cloud. Our internal customers are pretty much our e-commerce stakeholders, our site merchants, our P&L partners, in our credit operations team. We also have something called digital and customer strategy team. They're all our internal customers. So we have to tell them why we need to go to the cloud, right? Like you talked about, like going to the cloud brings with you some agility of pushing things on a daily basis to the cloud. We literally push stuff every hour to the cloud, right? So it is showing those benefits are very important.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Okay.
There was one thing I want to talk over here. If you look at 2017 was a NDA, and 2021 was a 5-year partnership, right?
Wow.
The way I call it was we were dating AWS for almost 4 years until we got married to AWS, right?
Got it.
We literally did not make a decision because of should we be cloud native, cloud agnostic,
Sure.
and we went through a journey of being cloud agnostic for a few years, and then quickly we said, hey, there's operational efficiencies are not there being cloud agnostic. I'm going to make it clear to you guys. You will never get an operational efficiency if you're cloud agnostic. You got to be cloud native.
Sure.
And we switched quickly to cloud native, and then we said, hey, we already cloud native, just sign the deal.
Got it. Cool. Let's get the next slide. Talk about your op model. One of the things that we talked about before today was just the way you structured your approach. It's one thing to say we're going to head down this path and you've got an alignment and a plan to do it, but like, what did your model look like in terms of structure?
Yeah, in terms of, I think, from a technology, we always want to put our customer at the center, right? Essentially, be it our end customer or be it our internal customers, we need to make sure that, we are building things for a customer need, right? And to build things for a customer need, we had to actually organize ourselves in the right manner to be able to deliver value. And one of the things, obviously, we did was essentially to make sure we moved to an, product operating model, more to an agile-based development, and ensuring that we are always continuously evolving and innovating to actually, deliver value to the customer, right? And that's the core tenet behind, some of these principles. I mean, many of you may have heard this, But to actually put this in practice, you need to have the right foundation. For example, if you're moving to the cloud, you need to have the right foundational team, like custodians for the cloud team, to be actually present, right? We call it as the Cloud Center of Excellence team. So you need to have those custodians, be trained, partner with experts from externally, and then make sure that you have that core foundational team in place that can essentially then propagate the best practices across the enterprise, right? Before you actually start moving workloads to the cloud. So essentially, yeah. So keeping the customer at the center, continuously learning and evolving, and keeping simple architectures, and not biting off more than you can chew, right? When you're actually trying to move to the cloud, because then people see, oh, it's too cumbersome, too complex, and then they back down, and that's essential to actually keep that journey alive. And of course, ownership and empowerment is very, very key if you have to move in an extremely agile manner, right? So that's
Sure.
obviously
And
key.
when you say customer, internal customer or customers, what did that look like?
Yeah, go ahead. Do you want?
Both, right? It's both customers. There are a few things over here that I really want to highlight is that continuous improvement is very important, right? In terms of keep learning. You learn, fail fast, learn again, and improve on it, right? Keep it simple is very important because that leads to building a repeatable engineering practice. When a lot of geeks are in a room, they tend to overcomplicate things, right? You have to take a break, draw the simple architecture over and over again. Empower and trust. You have to empower your teams. As a leader, I don't interfere with the Scrum teams. He doesn't interfere with Scrum teams. Scrum teams that we built, we talk about a product operating model in the next few slides. Those are self-organizing Scrum teams, right? Whether it's a T-stack, full stack engineers, or DevOps engineer, SRE engineer, whatever you want to call it, it's a self-contained team. And keep the team small. It's very important, right? And lastly, servant leadership is extremely important. It's a mindset. You cannot micromanage team members. Just set expectations, be a leader to unblock them, and then let the team do what they need to do.
Sure. And how does Neiman Marcus, from a leadership level, think about technology? In terms of
we are
its place in the.
we're a pretty tech-heavy company, right? So it's like we have the blessings of our CEO and my leader as well, who are all champions of technology. So when it's tech innovation, we are always there.
Cool. I think you can go to the next. All right. So we talk about cloud COE. Did you have one, or when did you establish it, and what does that look like for you all?
So I'll start and I'll hand it over to him because he's the custodian of this team. But I think one of the foundations for going to cloud is you have to have a cloud platform engineering team. You have to do that. And the way we did it was we didn't create a team. We actually hand-picked software engineers and said, hey, you're expert in Python, Java, whatever it is. We pulled them to and said, you're part of a platform engineering team. And that team is a custodian of ensuring your infrastructure is automated, fully infra as a service automation, right? And then that led to a CCOE team. So,
yeah, I mean, like I said, I think this was one of the key things that we had to do to actually get better at, to even get started, in our cloud journey, and to actually continue to keep the momentum that we have right now, right? So essentially, like I said, we tried different paths. Right now, we are at a stage where we do a lot of cloud native workloads, we do a lot of serverless first, workloads, and we actually have different paradigms and patterns that actually we leverage depending on what kind of need there is, right? So all of all those recipes are already built out, and that enables us to move fast. And we have the security and governance is actually at the center of it because, like for example, we encrypt everything in the cloud, right? So so we don't have to. And then if you're running serverless first workloads, I mean, Amazon takes care of it. For example, we don't have to worry about patching and so on and so forth. So essentially, the governance models, the DevSecOps is a practice that we have left shifted, within our Scrum teams. So essentially, all of those are already kind of baked into our kind of culture, so which enables us to kind of move fast. So this was one of the key things that we had to do to be where we are at today.
Sure.
Yeah, I think one thing is the governance is very important. As you move from an on-prem or a colo to the cloud, right? your governance model has to change. Change management has to change, right? If you're still using the same ITSM or ITIL practices and apply to the cloud, it's not going to work for you. It's going to be a roadblock. So you got to amend them and make sure that you still follow certain change control, but you have to change the model.
Got it. That's good. You want to talk about platform engineering? Was the structure in place for this when you got there, or did you have to also evolve this model?
No, we had to actually build this from scratch, right? So as we put the Cloud Center of Excellence together, platform engineering became a core competency for that team to enable that you automate everything, right? Everything is automated, build recipes for all of these different patterns, automate your build pipelines. Again, multi-region, availability versus consistency was a big paradigm for us. So essentially, all of these are kind of a sub-chapter within our Cloud Center of Excellence team that brings about kind of the knowledge and kind of the expertise across to our Scrum teams, right? So essentially, that's the core function of this particular pod that we have. So
when it comes to platform tooling, it's a journey that we took. If you look at it, we listed 4 things over there, but we started on the rightmost. We built our own platform tooling, a bunch of Ruby Python code that we built together, and we soon realized that it's going to be a hairball architecture. We paused it and said, let's explore something else. Then we went to Scepter, right? Scepter was exactly the tool that we needed, and then we slowly now shifted to Terraform.
yeah.
I'm guessing there might be a few people here that don't know what blue-green deployment means. Can you explain that so that they understand that concept?
Yeah, so there are multiple ways to do deployment, whether it's canary or blue-green deployment. So what we do is you have your traffic pointed to, let's just say, a green environment. The traffic is coming to 6 servers, right? And then we gradually start pushing the code to the next set of 6 servers, right? And you move traffic to the other one. So you always have -1 of your version of a code running in production, so you can flip over quickly, which is a huge benefit for us for cloud is anytime we have an incident, the first thing I tell the team is restore service.
Got it.
Right? And the first thing they do is flip the traffic over.
Perfect. If you guys have questions, we've got about 10 minutes left. You can come up to the microphone here and we will call you and you can ask the group. Instead of raising your hand, you can just come up to the microphones. See you right here, in the front here. We'll take a question over on this side and then we'll hit the next.
Yeah. Hi, Vijay. Hi, Sriram. Maybe one of the learnings that you can share is, given that it's been a multi-year journey, if you had to do it again, do it fast, are there learnings that you can share with all of us that we should avoid?
Yeah, it's probably coming later, but one learning is culture has to transform. It's a mindset. You have to transform that. We went through a pain and a journey with that. When you're doing agile or cloud journey, you're going to have certain set of resources who are not going to come on board, right? How do you coach them, train them, and then bring them on board is very important, right? Second one is I always say automate. It's always important to automate, and learning is important. There are a few slides about...
Real quick, on that topic though, automation, talk about what you mean by automation, because we hear different methods of using automation. What does that mean in your world?
So you codify everything, right? So essentially, you don't build infrastructure by hand, right? Whether it's actually leveraging, of course, if you're leveraging serverless native workloads, then Amazon provisions everything for us, right? But essentially codify everything, don't build anything by hand, and essentially that's what we call as infrastructure automation, right? And then, of course, there is different levels of automation, code level automation in terms of your pipelines, how code gets actually deployed across the different environments, what sort of gates you have, to ensure that your code actually passes all of the quality checks and so on and so forth. So essentially, codifying infrastructure, automating code, so all of that we call as automation, right?
Yeah, and then we use Slack to deploy the code, right?
Yeah,
got it.
Just say deploys the code. It's all fully automated, right?
Perfect.
And just to answer the question from so essentially, one of the learnings that we actually got better at was eliminating process for the sake of process, right? So essentially, if you have to move fast, if you have to actually, have your team be able to have a right set of guardrails to actually be able to deliver and give them the ownership, you need to actually also ensure that there's not too much red tape that prevents the teams from, doing the exact same thing that they're supposed to do. right? So you can't have too much process and be able to reap the benefits of the cloud, right? So that's where I think companies sometimes have too much red tape, and then that's where you need to be able to have the right guardrail set up, and then allow your team to actually be empowered to actually go and do what they need to do, right?
One important thing for us was that when we joined, we are retail, right? And during the holiday season, it's a freeze. Nothing goes to prod. There's a little freeze for like a 2-month freeze, right? We said, hey, we're on the cloud. Why do we need to do freeze? So we sort of changed it and said elevated change control, right? And then we just literally approve everything. It just goes live.
Sure.
So you got to have a different mindset.
I think you have a slide in here with some of your other big lessons learned. You want to talk about culture and from the product perspective, and then I know you've got a couple wrap up.
So we called this out because we didn't have this product team culture at Neiman Marcus in 2017, right? It was you had an army of engineers, right? And then you had somebody called the PPMO team who would just say, do this work, right? And they would do it versus we said, hey, when you build a product team, you have teams focused on customer journeys. And whether it's a team for shoppable content, whether it's content or commerce or APIs, you have teams built around that. They have a shared vision. They're marching towards the vision. It's not like I'm working on something today and tomorrow I'm doing something else, right? This is the whole concept of product. Anything you want to add here?
Yeah, I mean, I think the key thing here is essentially when we also the way you organize your product teams, right? That is super crucial, right? You can't have like siloed set of functions operating as Scrum teams. You need to have a cross-functional team that brings together a lot of different functions together, right? Be it technology, be it product management, be it UX, be it analytics. All of those different functions have to be part of your cross-functional product team, and then give them a goal, right? Give them a a goal, a shared, give them a common shared vision to actually go after, so that they can actually deliver outcomes, right? So they can define and deliver on outcomes, and iterate on those to actually, to get to the intended, business benefit, right? So I think that's very key, right? So a lot of companies form different product teams in a different siloed fashion. That will not work in an agile, setup. So I think that's one of the things that we have to do.
And don't call using Confluence and Jira as agile.
Right.
It's like a different mindset altogether. Yeah.
We often see many of our customers get stuck along the journey. Like, how have you guys maintained momentum and support over the multi-year period? Like, you know what I mean? You guys have a plan and you're following it and continuing that. Sometimes it's a challenge, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think showing value to the progress you're making is very important, right? So we went from like here's a high-level scope, and then we call MLP, MVP kind of a delivery of things, right? And then giving incremental value was able to get us blessings from our leadership to continue the journey.
That's great.
And then failing fast, I would say failing fast is a big tenet in terms of the management, making sure that your leadership understands that not everything may actually go according to plan, right? So essentially you need to fail fast, and if that enables you to actually learn from it and figure out what you need to actually do better to actually arrive at the appropriate outcome, right? So having that tolerance for failure, and as long as you're able to fail fast and you're not making the same mistake over and over again, I think that is a good recipe that, to make sure that companies allow that tolerance to actually see the progress over a longer term, right?
Anything you want to highlight here in terms of your before and after model for your tech
this
stack?
is just a small list of our tech stack, but just a quick flash of it. I won't go into details, but you can look at it. It's a pretty heavy on the left side, and this is more like cloud native and much more open, right?
Got it. I think we have one more slide here with some of your biggest lessons learned. Anything you want to highlight here that we haven't covered? And we'll have time for maybe one or two more questions from the audience if there's interest.
I think one lesson that we quickly realized was that we had a team of a lot of Java engineers, right? Classic Java guys, Struts, Spring kind of a guys. And then they said, hey, we're going to do microservices, right?
Right.
And they said, oh, let's do Spring Boot microservices. And Spring Boot will work happily if you dump your Spring MVC code into Spring Boot, it'll just keep running, right? Sure. So your code is still heavy, but it's no longer a microservice. So we sort of, the team was leaning towards microlith and not microservices. Then we had right-sized the team really fast, and then start pushing things to serverless, right? There are a few things over here. Use partners. We use partners, whether it's AWS or a few other partners that we use for the right skills and knowledge, right? We are not experts in everything that we do. We know that there's some gaps, and we use some partners to augment us. We had a great CDN partner. CDN is very, very important on the e-commerce side. That will help you move your colo on-prem DC to the cloud gradually, right? So having good CDN is important. Anything else you want to add?
No, I think it's
Nothing to add.
It's pretty good. Yeah.
Any questions from the audience? Yes, over here.
Hi guys, Vijay and Sriram. So you talked about the migration on the application side. Can you share a bit about the data side of the story?
Yeah.
There's a lot of data, real time, warehousing, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we actually also did a similar journey on the data side. We had a lot of on-prem data, what you call data warehouse, right? And then through the help from AWS, we're able to move everything to Snowflake. Snowflake is where we dump all our data in. And then we have a lot of ingestion pipelines from Snowflake that goes into various reporting tools. So that is the journey we took. You also need to have a data dictionary. It's very important. We didn't have one, right? So something you call as, let's just say, size or color in one table will be different in another table. Having a dictionary is very important as you go through the journey.
Perfect. Thank you all. We are going to be in the front here if you've got additional questions. Thank you, Sriram. And you guys, it's been a great discussion today. Thank you for spending the time with us. Thank you all for being here and choosing this as your session. Have a great NRF.